I think that dialogue at this time is liable to send a message of weakness. What the United States or Europe intends is not always interpreted that way in the Arab world. Tzipi Livni, Israeli Foreign Minister.
Welcome back to Inside Iraq. We are talking about the implications for the Arab world of the Obama election. Mr. Abouez, what are the likelihood that Obama's administration will look favorably at Hezbollah currently and for the last successive administration? That party, that entity has been looked upon as a terrorist organization.
I think that the main reasons of the big conflicts between the President Bush and Syria and Iran was at this time to make pressure on these two countries to facilitate the American role in Iraq. And I think that a major part of the nuclear problem with Iran or of the pressures on Syria were totally linked to how much Syria and Iran would facilitate the role of the United States there. Now that if we agree that Obama will start a new policy concerning Iraq and that Obama is not so much linked to the major reasons of invading Iraq as oil and others, and I think that he will have a more realistic relation with Iran and with Syria, and this relation will surely be transmitted to its relation with Hezbollah. I think that most of the problem with Hezbollah was not truly the fact that it was only considered by the Americans as being a terrorist party or terrorist organization, but I think that most of that was due to the fact that in Iraq, the United States, since 3 years at least, were trying to push Syria and Iran to facilitate its situation.
Sa'aduddin Ibrahim, since Minister Abouez mentioned Iran, let me run this question to you. Many pundits, especially in the US, they were slightly disappointed when Iran was not on the receiving end after Iraq of the Bush administration. They thought the next target might be Tehran. Are we looking at a potential collision course between the Obama administration and Tehran in his first term, since both sides are determined their position will not change? Obama just said that Iran's nuclear quest is unacceptable, and Khamenei, the al-Murshid, the chief of Iran, says we will not give up our nuclear ambition. Do you perceive a situation where a collision course might happen in the next four years?
Of course, everything is possible. My assessment, however, and knowing many people in the Obama camp, including some some of his very close advisors, is that no, he is not going to be a trigger happy as, let's say, the new cons would have wanted or would have done. He had said, and I believe he realizes that a collision course with Iran is not part of his agenda, nor would it serve the interests of the United States in the medium, let alone in the long run. So he will be seeking all kinds of ways to avoid that collision course. He will try to use multilateralism, and this is one thing that we are not taking note of in the Middle East, is that his foreign policy is determined to be more inclusive and more multilateral, and not the unilateral approach that Bush had done in the last 8 years. So with that in mind, I think there will be using all kind of both regional as well as international allies, colleagues, other actors to help dissuade Iran, or at least to have a new package, a new approach to the whole nuclear issue in the region.
He is definitely different, Ahmad Mustafa, from Bush administration in the sense that he said he is willing to meet with Iranian officials without preconditions. Just before the break, when we came back, we just have a quote from Tzipi Livni, the Israeli foreign minister, saying that meeting just like that, it sends the wrong signals and gives somebody something free. Explain to me, will the Israelis somehow play the spoiler role when it comes to the rapprochement or potential rapprochement between Washington and Tehran?
Of course, they will do everything possible within their means and capacity to try to spoil any prospects for a rapprochement between Washington, D.C. and Tehran. The fact that the common ground is already there and that there is a very strong possibility that both sides can agree on at least the following thing. Iran has said time and again that they are not trying to use their nuclear technology for military reasons. And the United States has time and again said that they are extremely worried about the possibility that Iran might produce nuclear arms. So at least we have a common ground upon which the Iranians and the Americans can set and engage.
That Israeli charge has been lobbied against Syria too.
Yes, of course, but you need to understand that the Israelis are very powerful. They have a very strong presence here in Washington, D.C. and across America. And they will do everything possible within their means to try to jeopardize the possibilities of a rapprochement between the United States and Iran, or even between the United States and Syria. But I think their major focus right now is on Iran.
Let me see if there is a counterbalance to this Israeli lobby, which is has been entrenched in the U.S. for decades, Mr. Buez. Right now, many financial analysts believe that the financial center has shifted to the east, primarily to the Gulf countries, as well as Russia. Billions of dollars of petrodollars are in these treasuries. Do you believe that the Gulf countries in general, and perhaps Saudi Arabia and the Emirates in particular, they will be able to play a lessening role and perhaps even exert some influence with the Obama administration, given the financial meltdown worldwide?
I think that the Israeli influence on the American policy, first of all, was built during many years ago. And I think that it's not very easy to start now to build such an Arab influence where the Arabs didn't really knew to do it during the last many years. And it was a very big mistake. Now I think that we don't think that now the Arab influence can be competitive with the Israeli one, but I think that Barack Obama will have to go to a fairest policy, to a more just policy in the Middle East, realizing that the former policy adopted by the Bush administration.
But can Arab petrodollars do something, Mr. Buez?
I think that the Arab capacities and the Arab petrodollars need some time to build a real presence in Washington and to build a real influence there.
Sa'aduddin Ibrahim, Obama is on record saying that I know no nation that has suffered more than Palestinians. And yet the charge against him, especially by Senator McCain, that he flip-flops. Will these sentiments vis-a-vis the Palestinians will be carried through? He will be looking at them favorably. He will try to put an end to their misery and pain?
Well, I think we have to be very careful in, again, interpreting what goes on through an election campaign. For one thing, yes, he is more sympathetic. He is in the same school of thought as Carter, as Clinton, in looking at the Palestinians sympathetically. His camp has been told time and again, and he has reassured us, Arabs who contacted him during the campaign, that he is not going to wait to the last year of his second term, if he has a second term, but he is going to take that file on from day one. Having said that, doesn't mean that he will do everything we want him to do as Arabs. We have to also be very realistic. It will depend on what the Palestinians and other Arab leaders put on the table for him to make his life and his goodwill toward the Palestinian possible to implement into, let's say, the two-state policy, which he knows is on the table. He knows it is supported by both the Palestinian and the Israeli public opinion and by the world community. And that is really where we'll start.
Imad Mustafa, the last question to you in less than 1 minute. The man carried the banner of change. Will that change come to the Middle East, or will it be of the same thing that we've seen for the past 40, 50 years?
Well, at least the man had the audacity to hope and dream. Why shouldn't we hope and dream? But also we need to be realistic. We don't want to dash our hopes. We don't want to raise our expectations. We in Syria, we don't hope that Obama will serve the Arab national interests. We only hope that he will serve the U.S. national interests for a change as compared to saving the Israeli national interests, which was the obsession of the Bush administration. So while we are saying goodbye to the Bush administration, while they are leaving the White House and while a new administration is coming, yes, we do have hopes. We have hopes for America ourselves. We have hopes for humanity in general, but also we have some reasonable, realistic hopes for our region.
Imad Mustafa, the Syrian ambassador to the U.S., Sa'aduddin Ibrahim, founder of Ibn Khaldun Center, the former Lebanese Foreign Minister Faris Bouez. Gentlemen, thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq. To access the show and to send us your comments, please go to aljazeera.net/English. We have reached the end of this show. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, goodbye.